In this video, I'm going to be demonstrating the initial setup of the Olympus Pen E-PL8 camera that Blue Sky Bio is selling for intraoral photography. This is going to be a very compact and a very user-friendly package for people wanting to do intraoral photography of their dental work and even extraoral photography of patient portraits and things like that. So first things first, when we open up the package, you're going to have a number of parts and pieces that are inside. You're going to have the camera, there's the kit flash, the kit lens, and then you'll have the battery, and then there will also be an SD card included with the kit. To start out, you'll want to go ahead and take off the cover off of the camera and install the lens. To do that, you'll just unscrew both caps, and then there's a red dot here and a red dot here. Line those up, and you should feel that click into place. You can remove the lens cover, and then to unlock the lens, you'll just rotate it counterclockwise, and that will unlock the lens where it is ready to use now. We'll also need to install the flash. So the flash will have a cover over the hot shoe right here. We can remove that, as well as the little silver piece on the hot shoe, and then this will slide into the hot shoe. If you have to, you can push unlock to make sure that that goes completely in. And then finally, we'll need to install the battery. Slide the lock open, and the battery should just slide in easily and click into place. Actually, I've got that backwards. You'll see it click into place and be retained by this little metal tab. And then the same for the SD card. It should go in with the tabs up and push it in until it clicks in place. And now you're ready to start using this camera. To begin the initial setup, go ahead and turn the camera on by clicking the on-off button. And you'll notice now that the viewfinder is active and we can see all the menu options. The first thing I would suggest you do is go into the menu and begin doing some initial setup. So if we go down to the very bottom tab, which is the wrench sign, click on that, and the first option is going to be to set the date and time. I would suggest that you do that because it is a nice option to have your date and time tagged to your pictures, so that if you ever lose track of what a picture was, you could go back and correlate it to your schedule to see who that was. Once you've done that, go up one more, and this is going to be a menu where we make most of the changes. So click over, and the first one we'll want to change is the autofocus mode. So click over one more time, and we want to choose this S-AF. That's for still autofocus. So we'll select that, and then left arrow back. The next thing that we'll want to change is the ISO, and so that was done by going into this exposure ISO button. Click that and go down to the ISO, click that, and I would suggest you start out setting this at 800. Now this may be the setting that you have to play with some depending on the lighting in your operatories, and 800 is a high ISO, but one of the things about this camera is that it is a micro four thirds sensor. It's a very small, but it's a very high quality sensor, and it actually gets better depth of field than most typical DSLR cameras. And so even going up to a high ISO like this, we're not going to see any noticeable degradation of the picture quality, and that's going to allow us to really bump up to a high aperture like an f20, which will really help with the depth of field on this. So go with 800. If you notice that your pictures are dark, you can try bumping that up. Again, that's probably the number one setting that you'll have to vary once you get this all dialed in. Continuing down from the ISO, we can go to the metering, and the one we want to choose is the center weighted metering, which I've got selected on right there. Make sure that you're on center weighted. Okay, that. And let's see if there's any other settings. Everything else looks good in this menu, so we can click back. On white balance, you're going to want to basically be auto white balance, so really no changes that you have to make there. And everything else looks good. Now I would suggest that you put it on aperture priority. That's done by turning this dial until it's set on the A, and that's going to give you the ability to set the aperture manually, but everything else will still be in an auto mode. To change the aperture, you're just going to use your up and down arrows. And again, I would suggest you go to an f-stop of 20. If you need to change exposure, that's done by using your left and right arrows, but I don't think you'll have to do too much with that. Click the OK button in the center. And one thing that we will want to do is go up to the flash first of all and make sure that it's on this setting, which is fill in flash, and then go down and one more menu option. And we want to bump the flash power up 1.3. So we're going to be attaching a diffuser onto the front of this camera, which means that it's not getting the full effect of the flash. So we want to bump up the power on that flash so that we have enough power to illuminate inside the mouth. Alright, so go to 1.3 on that. You can also get to all of the other settings that I had you change through this menu. This is the center weighted, the single AF, the ISO. And then also at the bottom, face priority. We're not going to really be taking pictures of the face. This is going to be primarily for intraoral use. That time's out and I have to go back into it. So I would suggest turning your face priority off. And once we've done that, this camera is basically ready to set up and shoot. The only thing that we need to add now is we need to place on the macro ring and the diffuser. To attach the macro converter, you'll simply take it out of its package and thread it on to the front of the kit lens. Once that goes to place, we can add the flash diffuser, and this is a plastic part that's simply going to slide over and screw into the tripod hole. And so we'll just tighten this thumb screw, and the purpose of this is to allow us to get even illumination inside of the mouth without having to go to a ring flash, which adds weight and expense. With this, what will happen is that the kit flash, hits the back of this and the light diffuses all through this, giving you in essence the effect of a ring flash without the expense. If you've ever tried to use just a conventional flash like this in the mouth, you know that the light is not coming from the same plane as the lens is getting. So you get uneven shadowing, it's a very harsh light. This is going to make for a much more evenly lit picture, and so it's a great solution. Now the final thing I'll show you is to actually shoot the camera. We're going to make sure that this little green indicator right here is on this one. This is the one-touch shoot, and so make sure you have that small icon on it. And once we do that, that means this camera is ready to simply touch on the viewfinder on whatever we want to focus on, and the camera will take its picture. Now that's very useful because if you've ever shot a large DSLR camera before, you know that in order to get those things in focus, oftentimes you're having to move your head in and out. You have to have your face to a viewfinder and be very close to the patient. With this, it's almost like shooting a smartphone. All you're going to do is frame up what you want to shoot and then touch on the screen the exact object you want to focus on. So if there's a tooth in the middle of the screen and you center on it, you're just simply going to touch it. And very, very quickly, this camera is going to find it and autofocus it and then shoot the picture. So very easy. This is going to be simple for most staff members to learn to use because, again, it's very much like their smartphone. So that completes the setup for this camera.